Hi, my name is Derek Henry with XLEV8 Consulting. In this video, I'm going to give a brief demonstration of the XLEV8 Add-in suite that can be installed and extend the functionality of Microsoft Office apps, including Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So what is an add-in? Well, really, it just extends what can be done in native out-of-the-box apps like Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and we'll get into what that means in just a minute. But before we do, I want you to just keep this one number in mind, 6 months. Now we'll come back to that in a minute, but if that is the only thing you remember from this video, I want you to remember 6 months. Now, again, what is an add-in? Well, within this add-in suite, there are hundreds of macros across Excel, Word, and PowerPoint that extend the functionality, let you do things that you can't natively do in those, and let you perform them quicker. A lot of these are like shortcuts. So if you have a task that takes 4 to 5 steps, maybe you can do it in one instead. Or maybe you can automate very high volume tasks, like you're filtering and sorting and copying and pasting over and over. You're looking for files, stuff like that. Now these are highly integrated between the different Office apps, or say between Excel and PowerPoint or Excel and Outlook. So what we're going to do is first go through why these are helpful. Okay, and this is all about time, right? So first off, it's going to help you save time on the little things, because in my experience, this all adds up. Now to come back to that number I told you to remember, 6 months. An hour a week, just 1 hour every week adds up to 6 months over your life. Trust me, the math works. I've done it many times because I first found that number. I was like, wow, that's a lot. And I found that when I was standing in line at Walmart many years ago, and found myself like, I must have been here for an hour. I wonder how much that adds up to if I did that every week of my life. And it was kind of shocking. And from that point, I kind of had a new efficiency mindset. Like, how can I get out of here quicker? Well, if you break that down over the business week, right, that's only 12 minutes a day. It is very easy to find 12 minutes every day to do things easier. Now, a lot of that's just using shortcuts like keyboard shortcuts or helping find your files easier, stuff like that. Okay. Some of the examples we'll see in here is helping to navigate a large file, or toggling through your favorite colors instead of using a mouse, or applying common print settings. So those are shortcut little things that add up. You can also save time on the big things. This is going to help you stay fresh and not be in the disengaging tasks that you're doing over and over, and you start making errors and you start really not liking what you're doing. Some examples of this. I used some of the macros in here to update an entire PowerPoint deck with hundreds of slides in a matter of minutes because I had all the information. I just needed to get it into PowerPoint. Or setting up hundreds of Outlook appointments, based on repeating types of logic that you couldn't necessarily use the Outlook recurrence feature. You're going to be able to leverage your efforts over and over again by setting defaults, by saving the things that you're doing and leveraging that over and over again. You'll definitely see that. And then lastly, you'll do things like you never thought you could. Have beautiful, high quality work where normally you're like, that just takes so much effort, I can't imagine doing that. Or by just keeping organized without really having to try. So let's get into this, look at some examples. So if we go over into Excel, okay, what you're gonna see up here on the ribbon, you've got your standard ribbon tabs, and then you have this new one that says XLEV8. Now the way everything is organized is by category first, like copy and paste, filter and sort, data, etc. And then within each of the categories, there's a menu. So you notice the menu right here, each of these items represents a macro that you can run. Now, if it's got a keyboard shortcut assigned to it, you're going to see that here in brackets. And then anytime you hover over one of these, it shows you a brief description over what it does, kind of how it works, what it's meant to do. Now, as pretty as this is, the idea is to not use this. If you've ever heard me talk about how inefficient it is to use a mouse most of the time, then this is not the quickest way to run macros. There are 2 easier ways to do it. Now, one way is to run keyboard shortcuts. That should be pretty obvious. And you can set those very easily in a variety of ways. The second way is to use the macro search box. Now, the default keyboard shortcut for this is Control-Shift-W. Now, this one you're going to use all the time. So I definitely would recommend using that shortcut, learning it, or changing it if you want to. And what you're going to do is just start typing. So if we wanted to change the cell highlight color, you can start typing the word highlight, right? And you can use the arrow down keys and up keys to change the value that's in there. And once this search box has the entire name of the macro, right? All you have to do is press run and it will run. So notice here that the cell highlight color changed. Goes from yellow to orange to red to purple, green, and then back to nothing. Okay, that's an example of a toggle macro where you can set whatever 5 colors you want, right? And let's say you have a big block that you want to change. That works too. If you have a bigger block and you've already got some colors, it uses the top left cell to tell you what it's going to do. Okay, now back over to the search box. If I run that again, one other thing I want to point out, I guess a couple of things. You can set the keyboard shortcut right here if you want. So notice on that one we just ran, see how it's Control Y. You can unset that, change it, do whatever you want. You can set these as favorites, and you can toggle through just your favorites if you only want to search for a few of these. You can also include your workbook macros. If you have some templates that have 2 or 3 or more macros you want to be able to search through and run easily in this way, instead of assigning shortcuts manually or instead of having to go up to the menu to do it, you can pull those in. And then you'll also see off to the side you've got descriptions, you've got some categorization, and then a help URL that we are going to build out for all of the macros over time. All right, so going back over this list, we walked through this. This is the second quickest way to run things after keyboard shortcuts. We talked through this one. Next, we're going to go through a different toggle. This is going to be the number format toggle. And you notice we have some very generic number format here. If we press Control-Shift-N, the default keyboard shortcut for this, it's going to add a comma. You do it again, it's going to add the $sign. Again, and it goes to % with 1 decimal. Again, it goes to a date because dates are just numbers stored as text within Excel. We do it one more time, it'll go to text and then back to general. Again, you can set these formats to whatever you want. So most people have 4 or 5 formats to use all the time. These toggles make it super quick to do that, right? And go between those. There are 15 or so toggle macros that you'll find within the platform. They work a lot like this. Usually they're for formats, but there's a couple of other examples as well. Next type of macro is going to be a picker. Okay, now the first one we're going to talk about is sheet action picker. And you're probably like, what the heck is a picker? Well, here's what it is. When you press Control-Shift-S, you're going to be greeted by a bunch of actions you can take. And all you have to do is enter a letter. Sometimes it's a number, sometimes it's a couple of characters, and it's going to perform the action associated. So if we wanted to leave the default as F, and notice that's already highlighted for us, so we just have to overwrite that if we want to type something different. But if we leave it as F and we press enter, it jumps to the first sheet. If we run it again, press L, jumps to the last sheet. If we run it again and press J, it brings up a sheet search box. Works just like the macro search box. So if we wanted to go to a sheet called Overview, we just start typing, shows us what they are, even shows the visibility and the tab color so we know what's the exact one we're looking for. Press enter and it jumps to the first one. And then, obviously there's several other options here, but one of my favorites is option T, which will insert a table of contents. So we'll press T and then enter. Gives us a prompt to say what cell do we want to hyperlink to. And usually the default here is great, cell A1. So we press enter and it creates on the fly a table of contents, right? Took no time at all to do that. And it's going to add this at the very beginning of your file. And the idea is if you have dozens or hundreds of sheets in this giant template you use all the time, this is going to cut down on navigation between the table of contents and all these other macros here, the first, the last, or a specific sheet, or whatever the case is. Hide them, unhide them, move it around, delete them, insert new ones. This is going to save time with sheets. Now you can set and reset your default action all the time, and it's going to change what default letter or number is shown here. Okay, so that's the sheet action picker. The filter picker is another one we're going to look at. The default shortcut for this is Control-Shift-F. And so what we're going to do is pick our range we want to apply the filter to, right? We're going to run that shortcut, different set of options. Now I'm going to run A, and what it's going to do is it's going to apply the filter. It's going to add freeze panes on the row below the top one that we have highlighted. It's going to ask us if we want to auto fit. Sure, sounds good. So now we have a filter in place, and some of the options here, let's say we want to pick this value and this value and this value. Right? If we run the macro again and press option T, filters to the values that are selected, one or more. Press enter, and it filters to just those values, right? So it's extremely quick, easier than using the mouse. If we run this again and press option U, notice that says unfilter all columns. Or we could do X and clear the filter just in this column. If we add an S to this, it will scroll to the bottom of the list, and the idea there is that you might want to add values to the list so you don't have to scroll down there yourself. Several other options here like filtering to errors or to the fill colors or zeros or blanks or non-blanks, non-zeros, lots of options here. One of my new favorites is with math, with the operators based on dates or numbers. That's fun. If you were to do sort, this one's really helpful. So let's say you want to do column A ascending. You just separate those with a underscore. Let's say B ascending, and then let's say D ascending. So it's either an A for ascending or Z for descending. So you can take this right here, right? And then you can say default 1, just type that in. And when you press enter, it'll sort. And then let's say you want to do this again. Let's say you run a report all the time, once every day. You come in here, you press S, and look at that. It saves this for us, so all we have to do is press 1, and it'll do it again for us. So we've looked at this one, looked at this one. Another one of my favorites is Print Picker. So we'll come over here and let's run this one. Control-Shift-P is the default shortcut. And the one that I run all the time is P, which is going to show a print preview. So we'll just press enter, and not terribly nice because there's all kinds of data here, just doesn't cut off very well. So let's say we want to format this with a whole bunch of stuff. We want to fit to one page, change it to landscape, add a header, maybe add a footer, stuff like that. So the idea is that you do those steps manually, or you use the different actions here in the picker prompt, right? So you can do some of those. Then you save, right? Follow the instructions down here on how to save as a default. And then you just press one of the numbers. So we're going to press number 1 here for the default that I like to use. It's going to apply all of those formatting types in one step. And it doesn't just do it for this sheet. It does it for any other selected sheets that you've got, which is something Excel can't do by default. All right, so if we look at this again, it's formatted really nicely, right? We've got all of our data right here. The one thing I might do is lock the row headers right here, or the column headers, but that's fine. We could always do that and resave it. But you get the point. This makes it a lot easier to apply your favorite print settings. Another one is the comment picker. This is one I use all the time because I like to document things and add comments where it's just going to clutter up the screen. This one, the default shortcut is Control W. So you can insert a comment, maybe something more serious than I'm typing here. You can always come over here and let's say you want to toggle it. Just press Option T for toggle. Let's say you want to delete it. Press this again, press D, enter, and it's gone. So there's a lot of other options here. You can copy the contents of the comment. You can paste whatever's in the clipboard of the comment. Lots of cool things you can run. The file comments is a great one because that's a way to track all the comments that you have, and then you're not hunting all over the place for them. So that one's very helpful. Another one is to search your recent files. The default shortcut for this is Control-Shift-O. Let's say you're looking for a balance sheet. Just type a couple letters, and here's that whole path to the file you might want to look for. And when that full path is in the search box, you press enter, it will launch and open that file. Let's say you want to look for something just in the folder. So notice I'm looking for something in the family folder. It's going to search through the entire path, not just the file name. You can find files in seconds and even filter through the last month, last year, whatever makes sense. This one saves me a tremendous amount of time because I work on a lot of different files and I can't tell you how much time this particular one saves. It's got to be in the hour range each month. All right, now these have all been kind of shortcuts, okay? When it comes to bulk tasks, okay, these are things that are going to save a lot of time every time you run them, not just a few seconds. Here's a great example. Maybe you have a data set that's in a pivoted format and you need to get it unpivoted so that you can use it for math or maybe put together a chart or something like that. So what we're going to do is search for Unpivot Macro. Okay, so there it is. We run this. It's going to ask us how many header rows are above the data set we want to repeat. So there's 2. And then how many columns to the left do we want to repeat? So we press that. Notice how it's showing us a status at the bottom left down here. And in a matter of about 5 seconds, it's done. So it shows us a little prompt. It says success. Then we can come up here and just add labels here. That's why it's highlighted in yellow. Maybe we want to add freeze panes and the filter. Then we can look through this, do whatever we want. Saves a lot of time doing that. So this is a good one. And then another one is create subfolders. Okay, all the time, especially at the end of the year, beginning of the year, I've had to roll forward files and folders, and it just takes hours. Well, I got tired of doing that, obviously, so I wrote macros to help do it, and I could re-leverage those year after year, just plug in some dates and link things to those. So the way this one works, and there's dozens of macros that work this way. Okay, we're going to look for a macro called create subfolders. Okay, what this is going to do is it's going to look for a particular sheet. This sheet right here, create_subfolders. It did not find it in this active file, right? So it created one down here. It has the instructions, it has the fields that we need, even has descriptions of what should be in each of those fields and whether or not it's required. Okay, so it knows what you're looking for. Now I've already set this up, so I'm going to copy and paste these values over here to help run this. Here's what we're going to do. I've got a folder over here. Notice there's nothing in this folder. Well, I want to create a weekly folder within each of these parent folders for every week over this 4-year period. It's like 216 folders, right? So we're going to run this again, right? We run it, and in a matter of seconds, 212 folders were created. I was wrong, it's just a couple less. So within this, we've got every single one of these folders that was created. Now, doing that manually would have taken a long time, but this one right here, this is definitely saved me a lot of time over my career. Now, let's talk about how this integrates with Outlook. This is something that's relatively new for me, but it's really helped out a lot. Let's say I have these 10 items I want to add. Okay, full disclosure, we'll go over to my Outlook, and there's nothing in my calendar for that date, right? Well, there is some stuff, but not the stuff I'm about to add. So what we're going to do here is run one called bulk appointments. Actually, just search for the word appointments, and it's called bulk edit appointments. Okay, so we're going to add, so we're just going to use an A there. It's going to create this new sheet, just like the last one did. Now I've already got all the fields over here, so we don't have to spend time watching Derek just randomly type stuff. So we're going to add it in here, and then when we run it again, it knows the sheet's there. It's going to prompt us and say, are you sure you want to import these? This is a pretty serious thing. We want to jack up all of our Outlook stuff, so it adds a confirmation prompt. So when we click import, all 11 of these items were added to Outlook. See? Each of those hours. Now let's say we're like, you know what? I messed up. I didn't need those. You could bulk update these. We'll pivot over here to the side. It added the ID. So if we ever wanted to change these, we could come over here and just remove the added or the new. Now let's say we want to delete them. We just follow the prompt up here, which tells us how to do that in the column header, comment, and now we're going to run it again. Again, it's going to prompt us. So now they were updated and they're no longer in Outlook. Right? So see, there's that date, nothing's there. So very quick and easy to add or import or update hundreds, dozens, or even hundreds, even thousands if you really needed to, appointments. Same thing can be done for contacts or tasks. There's even bulk ways to quickly send out meeting invitations or emails themselves if it's very, very similar content that you want to send out. This saves a tremendous amount of time. My wife and I use this to come up with the schedule for our kids and all their activities for an entire school year. I think there were 300 to 350 appointments for the school year. So I was listing them out in Excel. I couldn't use recurrence because they were changing the time or the day or the place, but it was usually a weekly thing, or maybe it was every day of the school year. I could use some math and quickly put things together. It took us about an hour to go through everything. I could instantly import it into my Outlook. But even better, I was able to copy and paste it, and she was able to do the same thing, right? So again, leveraging your work multiple times. So we talked through this. All right, now one of the newest things that I love, actually we'll skip ahead one other one, and then we will come back to the best one, I think. One of the things that I constantly would have to do with colleagues is share my schedule with them. Only I don't want to share the whole thing because then they can look in there and maybe put things on my calendar without asking. So I came up with a nice solution. I want to show my availability. So you can put in a date range and either A for availability only or full details with a D. And when you do this, it creates a new sheet. Now it says you can copy this into an email. We're not going to do that for now, but you obviously can. And then I can shave off the days I don't need. and I can send this. But look what's cool. If you have the category flexible, spelled just like that, as the category with the appointment, doesn't matter if there's other categories, this is really just kind of a dummy one. It says flexible here. That way they know that you could move this if you needed to, but you are not available for the time slots where it says anything else. So then the idea is you take a picture of this, copy it into an email, or you copy this and you paste it as a picture, send it to them, and it's very easy for them to know when you're really available. So I'm a big fan of that one. Now lastly, okay, I find myself spending a lot of time filing emails. So if we go back over into my Outlook here, notice that I've got a lot of folders in this testing email account, right? And I try to move all the items from my inbox into folders just to keep it organized so I can find things. Now there's ways to search easily, but I've found that keeping it organized is just easier to keep up with it. I kind of use my inbox as my to-do list. But it just takes a lot of time. You know, I found myself spending an hour, sometimes in more recent roles, 2 or 3 hours a week just filing emails. That's not a very good use of my time. So what I did is 2 things. One, the ability to define rules. Like if it comes from this sender, I want to go to this folder. This domain, I want to go to this folder. If it contains this subject, if the recipients are these people, if the attachments contain this, here's the default folder. Now in Outlook you can add rules, but they take a lot more effort to manage than just this list right here. The other thing is it'll move them without you ever seeing them. That's a big risk that things get fallen through the cracks. So what this is going to do is just suggest the folder it should go to. It's going to use these rules, and for anything else it's going to compare the folder names to the subject and the message and suggest the folder it should go to. So let's see it in action. We're going to come over here and search for email, and we're going to file email messages. All we need to do here is pick the address. We're going to use this first one up here. Now it's going to list out every single one of the messages in the inbox. It's going to go through those. You can elect to have it ignore flagged emails, which I think is a big deal because flagged ones you're probably working on. Now it says 92 were exported. It suggested the folder based on those rules first, and then it suggested some based on the subject line. Now it's giving a similarity index based on, it says 99 if it matched a folder, and then it's going to use the words. Like you see training here. Training was in the subject line, so it found 100% of the folder name in the subject line. Same thing here, travel plans. So what you can do is review this, be comfortable with it, right? Then run it again because it's looking for this exact sheet name right here. So if we do that, right, again, pick the email box. It's going to move all those for you, and it's going to have it highlighted in green when it works. Okay, shows you how many were moved. It did not move the flag ones because it left those blank, and we didn't change that. And then it didn't move this last one because we didn't add anything there. Come back to that in a minute. Now, if you need to search for one of these folders, right, there's a drop-down list because what it's going to do is every time you run this, it's going to export all the folders. So if you're adding new ones, it will overwrite this every time. And then you can pick from that list. Now, if you want to search this list, right, you can press Alt-Shift-Down, and in searcher here, like the words TR, you can find training or travel. So maybe you want to put it in training, right? So you can change what the default is if you want, and you can quickly do that just by using the drop-down list. Either Alt-Down to pick from the list, or Shift-Alt-Down to search through the list. So cool stuff. Now this bottom one here, I didn't move that on purpose because this is kind of a bonus. One of the macros in here will export your weekly calendar for the next 7 days into an email. I used to not be very good about managing my calendar. You know, didn't have a whole lot of meetings, so I'd forget about it, then I'd get in a pinch and forget to prepare for things. But I was really good about checking my email. So this will send you a list of all of your appointments for the next 7 days. You see how these are kind of listed out here. It'll even bold and red the ones that are important, and at least you'll see that. Okay, so I found that really helpful. But I've learned to get better about managing my calendar because that's just such an important part of my role now. All right, so we looked through these last two. All right, now how does this work? How do I get this? This is really cool stuff. I want to tinker with this. Well, you can download a trial. It's really easy to install this. You just go to the website at the link right here. You can go to just XLEV8.co. Notice there's no M here. The full add-in page is at this link right here. So you go over there, you can register for a license or a free 30-day trial that's got full functionality to it. it's going to give you a zip file that you can download. So you'll extract that and then open the Open Me First Excel file. And it's going to have a couple macros you can run, so make sure you enable those and then run them and follow the instructions. Right, even has some instructions in there, obviously. And it'll install the files in the right place, and then it will save you a lot of time. If you have questions about how this works, please send me a message, LinkedIn or on the website or however you want, and I will help you out as soon as I can. So that's it. Appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a great day.